We do live here in New York City. This is our breakfast table where we talk about everything. So we're going to do that with Peter Schrager, Kyle Brandt, DeAngelo Hall, myself, Kay Adams. And let's get right to it with the news overnight that everyone is talking about. Tom Pelissero joining us with that news. John Gruden resigning as the Raiders head coach. Mr. Davis accepting that resignation. How did it go down and where do the Raiders go from here? Good morning.
Good morning, Kay. John Gruden had defended himself on Friday after the Wall Street Journal first published an email from 2011 in which Gruden used a racial trope to describe NFL Players Association Executive Director DeMaurice Smith while Gruden was working at ESPN. Gruden maintained these were personal emails, not intended for public consumption, and he did not have a racist bone in his body. Then on Monday night, around 8 p.m. Eastern, the New York Times published a trove of additional personal emails from Gruden to then Washington executive Bruce Allen and others in which Gruden used homophobic and misogynistic language, expressed negative feelings about the rise of women officials, the NFL's push for a gay player, Michael Sam, to be drafted, and protests during the national anthem. Within the hour, Gruden had met with Raiders owner Mark Davis and his staff to inform them of the stunning news. He was resigning as the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. It has been a swift fall for Gruden, who was rehired out of the broadcast booth back in 2018. It was a coup at the time for Mark Davis, who had tried for years to lure Gruden back to the Raiders. Gruden remade the staff and the roster. He ushered in the Las Vegas era of the Raiders. The end result, a 22-31 record in parts of 4 seasons, no playoff appearances, and on Monday night, John Gruden resigned in disgrace as the Raiders head coach, his coaching career quite possibly over at the age of 58. In terms of where things go from here for the Raiders, a longtime Gruden assistant and special teams coordinator Rich Bisaccia will take over on an interim basis, and there is still a game to play on Sunday at Denver. Okay.
Appreciate the update from you, Tom Pelissero, and the report. We'll be talking about that, of course, at the breakfast table all day long. We know Raider Nation does not sleep. I feel terrible for Raider Nation. We'll talk about the fans, the impact of that as his team tries to move on, but not until we talk about what we make of John Gruden's resignation. I've resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to the players, coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone, Peter.
Yeah, the New York Times report it's disturbing, and it unscathes emails that have things not only against DeMaurice Smith, which we talked about at length over the weekend and yesterday, but Commissioner Goodell, about officials, about homosexuality. There's all sorts of misogyny throughout these emails, and the thing that is wild to me is that the Wall Street Journal report comes out Friday, and the team was given a tip on Thursday night that's coming out. He meets with the team. This guy coached over the weekend. This guy wore the Raiders outfit over the weekend, knowing that it is. So, he couldn't coach again, and obviously his resignation's taken. And I don't know what to say. There were 650,000 emails that were investigated in the discovery phase of an investigation of the Washington football team. These are the only ones that have leaked thus far. I don't know where this is going from here, and I would assume there is plenty more to come out of that investigation, and truth came to light. And John Gruden will not be coaching in our world anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's super disappointing for Raiders fans. They worship this guy. This is their guy. It has been for 20 years. And I think it's really disappointing just for football fans in general. I'm disappointed in what he did. Because you understand, like, John Gruden he's a football caricature. It's what makes him fun. He's Chucky in the scowl and the swearing and the chicken wings and all that. It's a full cartoon character for a whole generation of people. John Gruden is what a football coach looks like. He's what he's about. He's old school. He's tough. But now this took the fun caricature to a bad stereotype of the ignorant football caveman ignoramus, just with Stone Age ideology and terrible, terrible views on the world, and it's over, and it's a shame. And I do think it's really interesting that when John Gruden was reintroduced as Raiders coach in January 2018, He was asked about media, social media, your message, and how players should express themselves and express their views publicly in this day and age. John Gruden, an actual quote the day he was introduced. Got to be careful what you post because sometimes it backfires against you. It's no different than talking in a microphone. You're responsible for your actions, and we'll talk about that at length with our team. And here we are today. Did you? Because if you did talk about it to the team, I imagine you were a hypocrite. That whole Raiders thing is a commitment to excellence. It's not just the football. It's from the top on down. And if you read those emails and every single different thing that he hit over years and years, it was a commitment to ignorance. And that's why he's gone.
Yeah, my personal feelings, I don't know John Gruden. I got the opportunity to play for his brother Jay. And, the relationship I have with Jay, I even still golf with Jay to this day. And we've had some heated arguments just as players do in the locker room with coaches. But I could never see this happening with Jay. And I say that because they are brothers. And, I think this isn't something that just happened overnight. This is something that has been on John Gruden's heart for a while now. And like you said, now it's coming to the light. And I don't have, it's hard for me to have sympathy for a person or feel any type of, sad feelings about this happening, because in the National Football League, when you play sports, and you've been around sports, all of us have been around sports, any sport, it's a safe place in that locker room. It's a safe place on a team. No one looks at the color of your skin. It's just, I got your back, you got my back, right? You make that play for us, whoop-de-whoop. It's that camaraderie. And so to see this from the guy who's leading your organization, it's very disturbing, without a doubt. How do these players respond? That's going to be a big question. Is this a lost season for the Las Vegas Raiders? All of those things kind of come into play. Being in Washington for all of those years, it always felt like we had to deal with something. We couldn't just play football.
Sure.
We had to focus on something else. And even watching the game last night, hearing Booger McFarland talk about, if you aren't focused on, anything that takes my attention away from the task at hand, which is trying to win a football game, it is a distraction. And even though John Gruden has resigned now, it's still a distraction. This team is not going to just be able to turn the chapter. We say in football and any sport really, winning cures a little bit of everything, no matter what the problem is. Winning kind of cures that. It's going to be tough to come back from this, though. It's going to be tough for that Raiders organization to come back from this, from a lot of the players in that locker room. We talk about Rich Bisaccia taking over as, now the interim head coach. I played against John Gruden when he was in Tampa, and Bisaccia was his special teams coach. So this relationship goes deep. It goes really deep. And so, I'm in that locker room thinking, hell, does Rich feel the same way John feels, because they're so close.
So what does that do
all
with
of
the
those
locker
things
room?
you just don't know.
Because it's not just the Raiders.
It kind of divides the locker room, right? It 100% divides the locker room. You talk about Michael Sams and some of the homophobic things that were in the email. Carl Nassib, yes. And, I stood up and I said, wow, such an amazing feeling for Carl to come out, because as a player, I don't care if Carl's gay or not. I want to know, can you help me? And watching him play this season, absolutely he's helped the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders win games,
100%.
without a doubt. And that's what it's about on that football field. That's what it's about in that locker room. The lip service, nobody wants to hear that. Can you help us win? And so it's going to be very interesting to see where this football team goes, because I can see it going one or two ways. Obviously being just a terrible situation where no one's kind of, has each other's back. Everybody's out there for themselves. Or maybe this is opportunity for that football team to, to come together. It's going to be hard to do. I've never experienced anything like this, and I've been around some crazy things in my 14 years, but I have never, ever seen anything like this. And it's very disturbing, especially in a league that's, trying to get that stigma away.
That's what makes it not just a Raiders thing.
Standpoint, right?
It makes it, this exists, this mentality, this feeling of being unwelcome and unwanted that people in any job, in any walk of life feel is something that exists in the NFL. It's not just a Raiders thing, but to speak about Gruden, how you're saying you don't have sympathy for him, well, he's going to go and Gruden's going to be okay. It's this Raiders fan base that is left again. Like, what do we do? Are we going to rebuild? Are we going to be okay? It could go either ways. And that's just simply not fair in my eyes. And I feel for them because this is, of all the fan bases that we love and we cover, like Raiders, they show up. You were talking about, you did a whole bit about this fan base going to LA, going into SoFi, selling out. Like, they're the ones paying money, spending money, supporting their team through thick and thin. Like, I feel bad for them. I don't know where they go from here. And I'm going to look at you, Shriggs. What do we know about Bisaccia? What do we know about what this future could look like? Because I think we all know what happened against the Bears. This was clearly in the air. Yeah,
he's not the long-term answer. It's a Band-Aid. And the Band-Aid, to DeAngelo's point, is one of Gruden's longtime associates that has always relied on Gruden for, I got your back. And he's going to be the one taking him over. So we'll see what happens to the Raiders in 2020. I also think this reveals an invincibility that a lot of these men have had for many decades in corporate America and in NFL and in plenty of other places, that the more these things come to light, that maybe the next generation, this doesn't exist. It was it was sad actually that after Adam Schefter gave the report on Monday Night Football, the NFL had this incredible inclusion commercial, like in the commercial break, about how the NFL is for lesbians, the NFL is for lovers, the NFL is for everyone, the NFL is... And then we're just coming off of this story. I would like to think that that is of a bygone era, but it's not. It still exists. And that invincibility, that feeling that I can't be touched and this is okay and we could talk this way, that's what affects me the most and it upsets me the most, because this wasn't from 1988. This wasn't Jimmy the Greek in a bar. This is from really recent, and it still exists. And as much as we want to point to the other things, like you're saying, this open conversation of inclusivity, it's going to take a while until we get there. And investigative journalism like this and some of the stuff might actually bring to light and maybe help change the conversation.
Is there any way this can bring a locker room together?
I mean, it is. In my opinion, though, I think one of the questions that I would probably like to ask Mark Davis is if Gus Bradley was an option. Because Gus Bradley's, he's only been there a short amount of time. This is his first season with the Raiders as a, defensive coordinator. He has head coaching experience, but he doesn't come with any baggage, any connection to John Gruden. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, those players, they're going to be talking.
Gus was with him in Tampa way back, but as an assistant.
Yeah, but like,
it's not years and years.
It's not. Yeah, and I just, Bisaccia's been in that building since John got the job.
Sure.
And so, like I said, they were together for a long time in Tampa. Besides a couple years in, I think, Dallas and with the Chargers, they've coached together solely. And so, like-minded people, it's kind of what I always think about. But I've heard players speak highly of Coach Bisaccia, so I don't want to go in here and talk about, and try to ruin his character, because that's not my mission at all. But I would have probably liked a guy like Gus Bradley. If I'm a part of that football team, I'm thinking initially, these dudes are thick as thieves. Like, I want somebody who has kind of no attachment or as limited as possible.
Right.
And so that's kind of my only thing. But can it bring a team together? Yeah. Crazy things bring teams together, because it's a me against the world type of mentality. When you go into an opposing team stadium and it's 70,000 against you, you relish in those opportunities to go out there and silence the crowd and the critics. And so, yes, I think the Raiders will try to fight their butts off. I know Derek Carr is going to be, one of the leaders in that locker room to try to bring these guys together, but it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot to try to overcome this, for sure.
Jon Gruden resigning as the Raiders head coach. That happened late last night during Monday Night Football.